Some towns in America are practically giving away homes for under $100,000 while coastal cities price out even dual-income families. Most people assume affordable retirement ended a decade ago. If you're the kind of person who wants to understand where your retirement dollars still work before everyone else figures it out, subscribe. Because what looks like a random list of cheap places is actually revealing which parts of America are banking on retirees to survive. The average Social Security check in 2025 is $1,780 per month. Financial planners have spent decades saying that's not enough. But in 12 specific towns across America, that number suddenly makes complete sense. And the reason why tells you everything about where the next wave of American retirees will actually end up. These aren't random bargains, they're strategic responses. Towns facing population decline are cutting costs, offering incentives, and creating environments where fixed-income retirees can not just survive, but live with dignity. While major metros chase high earners, these communities are building entire economies around people who've already stopped working. Today, we're breaking down 12 hidden towns across America where you can retire on Social Security alone, from Rust Belt cities to southern river towns. And by the end, you'll see what these places are quietly preparing for. A wave of budget-conscious retirees looking for dignity without debt. Some of these towns will surprise you. A few will challenge everything you thought you knew about retirement. Across the U.S., smaller towns are dealing with aging infrastructure, shrinking tax bases, and younger generations moving to cities. The math is simple. They need residents who pay property taxes, use local services, and don't require new schools. Social Security retirees fit that profile perfectly. Some states don't tax Social Security benefits. Others offer median home prices under $100,000. A few do both. This isn't charity. It's economic strategy. And it's creating a map of America most retirement planners don't talk about because it doesn't fit the Florida, Arizona, California narrative they've been selling for 40 years. But the numbers don't lie. And neither do the retirees who've already figured this out. Number 12. Van Buren, Arkansas. A historic river town where your entire rent costs less than most people's monthly streaming subscriptions. Van Buren sits along the Arkansas River with a walkable downtown, scenic views, and that small-town pace where neighbors still know each other's names. Average rent here is $620 per month as of December 2025. That's 62% below the national average. Median home prices hover around $159,000 to $199,000. The cost of living runs 22% below national average. A single person needs just $25,600 annually to live comfortably here. That's well within Social Security range. The town has nearly 24,000 residents, giving you access to services without big city chaos. And here's the detail that changes everything. Arkansas doesn't tax Social Security benefits. When your biggest monthly expense is under $700, suddenly that Social Security check doesn't feel so tight. Arkansas is quietly becoming a retirement destination because it combines Southern charm with Midwest affordability and state tax policy that favors retirees. Think about it. A two-bedroom apartment in a historic district for less than what a studio costs in most suburbs. The state government figured out years ago that retirees stabilize small towns. They pay taxes. They use healthcare. They don't strain schools. And they tell their friends, Van Buren isn't an accident, it's a preview. Could you see yourself retiring along the Arkansas River? Think about what $1,300 in monthly margin would actually feel like. That's the difference between surviving retirement and enjoying it. Number 11. Fort Scott, Kansas. The only place in America where you can buy a decent home for the price of a used car. Fort Scott is a quiet Kansas town of about 7,300 people with wide streets, low crime, and a community that still shows up for local events. The median home value here is $82,450. The median income is $47,458. Population sits at 7,303, small enough to feel intimate, big enough for healthcare access. About 38% of residents are seniors. This town understands retirees. Multiple senior living options exist with costs below state averages. Assisted living here runs $4,014 per month compared to $4,147 statewide. Even care is cheaper. When homes cost less than $100,000, You can own outright and live on Social Security without a mortgage hanging over your head. Kansas towns like Fort Scott are betting on retirees to stabilize their population. And they're making it financially impossible to say no. 3-bedroom house with a yard, paid in full, and your entire Social Security check available for living expenses. That's not a fantasy. That's Fort Scott on a Tuesday. The trade-off is obvious. You're in rural Kansas. Winters are cold. Entertainment options are limited. The nearest major city is hours away. But if financial freedom matters more than nightlife, Fort Scott offers something almost extinct in America: the ability to own property on a modest fixed income without generational wealth or a second career. Would you trade coastal weather for complete financial freedom? For some people, that's not even a question. For others, it's the hardest decision they'll ever make. Only you know which camp you're in. Number 10. Marion, Illinois, Southern Illinois' best-kept secret, where outdoor recreation meets rock-bottom housing costs. Marion is the county seat of Williamson County, with nearly 17,000 residents, excellent schools, safe neighborhoods, and direct access to thousands of acres of protected wilderness. The median home price is $173,733. Cost of living sits well below both state and national averages. Population is 16,874. Crab Orchard National Wildlife Refuge offers hiking, fishing, and birdwatching right outside town. Illinois has the lowest flat tax rate in the nation and doesn't tax Social Security benefits. When nature is free and housing is cheap, retirement starts to feel less like budgeting and more like living. Illinois gets a bad reputation for taxes, mostly because of Chicago. But small southern Illinois towns like Marion are structurally different. They don't carry Chicago's pension burden. They don't have Chicago's infrastructure costs. They're basically a different state with the same name. Retirees are starting to notice. Morning walks through protected wildlife areas, afternoons fishing on the lake, evenings on your own front porch, all without touching your principal. The downside, Illinois politics are messy. The state has financial problems that won't disappear. Property taxes can surprise you even cheap areas, but if you're renting or buying modestly, Marion offers a quality of life that costs triple elsewhere. And that wildlife refuge access. That alone justifies the zip code for anyone who spent their working years dreaming about nature. How important is outdoor access in your retirement plan? Because if it's in your top 3 priorities, Marion just became a serious contender, and most retirement guides will never mention it. Number 9. Beckley, West Virginia. The suburban feel of a modern town with home prices that haven't existed elsewhere since 2010. Beckley sits in southern West Virginia coal country with about 17,000 residents, a rich cultural history, and a surprising amount of outdoor recreation for such an affordable area. Median home price is $143,000. West Virginia ranks as the most affordable state for comfortable retirement. Population hovers around 17,000. West Virginia is the only state projected to have median home values under $150,000 by 2030, and the state doesn't tax Social Security income. When everyone else is panicking about housing, you're sitting in a paid-off home in a state that's affordable by design. West Virginia's economic struggles created a unique opportunity, a state that's structurally built to stay cheap even as everywhere else inflates. That's not a temporary market condition. That's demographic and economic reality. A suburban neighborhood with modern amenities, mountain views, and monthly expenses so low you forget what financial stress feels like. The reality check: West Virginia is poor. Infrastructure is aging. The opioid crisis hit hard here. Economic prospects for young people are limited, which is exactly why costs stay low. You're retiring into a place other people are leaving. That matters psychologically. But if your priority is financial security over social status, Beckley offers something increasingly rare: middle-class retirement on a working-class budget. Would you move to coal country for financial security? That question separates retirees who prioritize perception from those who prioritize bank accounts. Neither answer is wrong, but they lead to very different lives. Number 8. Clarksburg, West Virginia. The town where affordable retirement isn't marketing, it's policy. Clarksburg is a small West Virginia town with historic charm, tight-knit community vibes, and home prices that sound like typos. Median home price is $159,000 as of October 2025, well below both national and state averages. West Virginia ranked #1 most affordable state for comfortable retirement in a 2025 study. No state tax on Social Security income. Cost of living among the lowest in the nation. Even healthcare costs are lower here. When a state government actually designs policy around affordability, retirees notice. Clarksburg isn't just cheap. It's part of a statewide strategy to attract and retain retirees as an economic development plan. A historic home in a walkable downtown, property taxes you can pay with a single Social Security check, and money left over for travel. The pattern emerging across West Virginia is deliberate. State leadership recognized years ago that they couldn't compete for tech jobs or young professionals, so they pivoted, make the state so affordable that retirees choose it intentionally. It's working. Slowly, quietly, but measurably. The challenge is the same across all of West Virginia. You're moving to a state with deep economic problems and limited upside. If you need part-time work, options are scarce. If you want cultural amenities, you'll drive. But if your goal is to make Social Security cover everything while living in an actual house with a yard, Clarksburg delivers without apology. Does state-level affordability policy change how you think about retirement? It should. Because while other states chase growth, a few are quietly designing themselves around people on fixed incomes. Number 7, Pottsville, Pennsylvania, where Pennsylvania's famously low taxes meet surprisingly affordable housing. Pottsville is a small Pennsylvania town with big heart, historic character, and a cost of living that makes financial advisors do double takes. Median home price is $147,000. Pennsylvania's median home price is $292,000. Pottsville is half that. Pennsylvania doesn't tax Social Security or retirement income and has the lowest flat tax rate in the nation. This is one of the few states where tax policy actively favors retirees. When you're not losing chunks of your Social Security to state taxes, that monthly check suddenly stretches a lot further. Pennsylvania is competing for retirees by making the tax math impossible to ignore. Small towns like Pottsville are the proof of concept. A small town main street with local shops, no state tax on your retirement income, and home prices that let you buy outright. The Commonwealth realized something other states missed. Retirees vote, pay taxes, and don't require expensive services. Make the math work for them, and they'll move. Pottsville benefits from Pennsylvania's broader strategy while offering genuine small-town character, historic architecture, walkable downtown, 4 seasons. The catch is that Pennsylvania winters are real. Snow, ice, heating costs. If you have mobility issues or hate cold, that's a deal breaker. And while the state doesn't tax retirement income, local property taxes vary wildly by municipality. Do your homework. But for retirees who want East Coast access, 4 seasons, and tax-friendly policy, Pottsville represents something rare: affordability without isolation. How much do state taxes factor into your retirement plans? Because a 0% state tax on Social Security is worth thousands of dollars annually. That's real money that stays in your account instead of vanishing. If you're still watching, you're already noticing patterns most people miss. Every town we've covered shares 3 things: housing under $200,000, state policies that favor retirees, and local governments that need residents more than residents need them. The next 5 places make those patterns impossible to ignore. Number 6. Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Coastal living at inland prices, and Mississippi will pay you to stay through tax breaks. Ocean Springs is a historic coastal town of about 1,500 people, named the top coastal small town by USA Today, with water views, a thriving downtown, and a surprising arts scene. Population is 18,561. Mississippi offers tax-free incentives for retirement income. Cost of living sits significantly below coastal averages. It ranks number 595 nationally for good places to retire with an A grade. You get Gulf Coast access without Gulf Coast prices. When you can afford coastal sunsets on a fixed income, retirement stops feeling like compromise. Mississippi is using tax policy to compete with Florida, and for retirees on Social Security, the math is starting to work. Morning walks along marsh trails, afternoons in historic downtown galleries, evenings watching the sun set over the water, all within Social Security budget. The complication is Mississippi itself. The state ranks near the bottom nationally in healthcare, education, and economic opportunity. Political climate may not align with your values. Heat and humidity are relentless, May through September. Hurricane risk is real. But Ocean Springs specifically has cultivated an arts community and coastal culture that feels distinct from the rest of the state. You're not retiring to Mississippi generically. You're retiring to a specific town with a specific identity that happens to be in Mississippi. That distinction matters. The town attracts creative retirees, which creates a self-reinforcing cultural ecosystem. Would you choose Mississippi over Florida if the numbers made sense? Because Ocean Springs costs half what comparable Florida coastal towns do. The question is whether you're willing to look past the state's reputation. Number 5. Corning, Iowa. The Midwest town where housing prices are dramatically lower than anywhere else, and that's not an exaggeration. Corning is a quiet Iowa town where neighbors still wave, downtown still exists, and housing costs sound like they're from a different decade. Housing is dramatically lower than national average. Iowa offers tax exemptions on Social Security and pension income. Retirees here enjoy financial advantages rarely found elsewhere. The state is actively using tax policy to attract retirees. When both housing and taxes are designed to favor retirees, your Social Security check isn't just enough, it's comfortable. Iowa isn't flashy, but it's building a retirement economy through strategic tax policy and housing affordability. A classic American small town where your biggest monthly expense is groceries and your Social Security check covers everything else. The unspoken trade-off is cultural. Corning is small, rural, and conservative. If you need diversity, progressive politics, or urban energy, you won't find it here. Entertainment is local. Restaurants close early. The nearest airport is hours away. Winter is long and cold. But for retirees who value financial security over stimulation, Corning offers profound peace of mind. Your money goes further here than almost anywhere in America. That's not marketing, that's math. And for people tired of financial anxiety, math matters more than amenities. Iowa bet on retirees because they had to. Young people leave. Farms consolidate. Towns shrink. But retirees looking for quiet and affordability, they stay. And slowly, that's stabilizing places like Corning. Would you trade excitement for financial peace of mind? That's the real question underneath every retirement decision. Both answers are valid, but only one leads to small-town Iowa, and that's okay. Number 4. Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Missouri's best-kept secret, where Social Security isn't taxed and housing is a fraction of city prices. Poplar Bluff is a peaceful Missouri town within driving distance of St. Louis, offering small-town calm with access to city amenities when you need them. Housing sits well below state averages. Missouri doesn't tax Social Security income. Crime is low. Close enough to St. Louis for medical specialists, far enough for peace. It's called a best-kept secret because locals want to keep it that way. When you can access big city healthcare without big city costs, retirement planning gets a lot simpler. Missouri is positioning itself as the affordable alternative to expensive retirement states. Towns like Poplar Bluff are the proof. A quiet neighborhood where you know your neighbors, with St. Louis an hour away when you need it, and monthly costs so low you stop checking your bank account. The strategic advantage here is location. You're not isolated. You're not in the middle of nowhere. Major medical centers, airports, and specialists are accessible, but you're not paying urban prices. That balance matters, especially as you age, and healthcare access becomes non-negotiable. The downside is Missouri's political and cultural divisions. The state is deeply polarized, and that plays out in local policy. If politics matter to your daily quality of life, research carefully. But if you can separate local politics from personal finances, Poplar Bluff offers one of the best cost-to-access ratios in the Midwest. You're not sacrificing access, you're just refusing to overpay for it. How important is proximity to a major city in your retirement plans? Because Poplar Bluff proves you don't have to choose between affordability and access. You can have both if you're strategic about location. Number 3, McAllen, Texas. The only place in America where you can rent for $613 per month in 2025, and that's not a typo. McAllen sits at the southern tip of Texas with nearly 866,000 people in the metro area, year-round warmth, and a cost of living that makes financial advisors rethink everything they know about retirement. Average rent is $613 monthly, the lowest in the region. Median home values hover around $222,873 in McAllen, $210,392 in Edinburgh, $216,350 in Mission. Typical mortgage payment is around $844 per month. Cost of living runs 23.5% below national average, 18.8% below Texas average. Utilities are 10.9% lower than national average. Groceries are 7.9% lower. About 11% of the metro area is 65 or older. A single person needs $30,400 annually to live comfortably, less than average Social Security. January lows hit 49 degrees with highs of 71 degrees. August lows are 77 degrees with highs of 99 degrees. U.S. News named it one of Texas's premier retirement cities. When your rent is $613 and your Social Security is $1,980, you're not just surviving, you're living with margin. The Rio Grande Valley has historically been one of America's poorest regions, but that same economic reality created infrastructure, housing, and services priced for local incomes, not national markets. Now, as retirees discover it, they're finding a place where cost of living still reflects local wages, not investor speculation. McAllen represents proof that geographic arbitrage still exists in America if you're willing to look past the usual retirement hotspots. Would you move to South Texas if it meant your Social Security check covered everything comfortably? Because McAllen offers something almost extinct: urban amenities at rural prices. That combination is disappearing everywhere else. Number 2, Youngstown, Ohio. A Rust Belt city where economic collapse created the lowest housing costs in America and opportunity for retirees. Youngstown is an Ohio city of about 60,000 that's rebuilding after decades of industrial decline, offering urban amenities at prices that shouldn't exist in 2025. Typical home value is $66,489. Many homes need renovation, but even move-in ready options stay well under $100,000. You get city infrastructure at small-town prices. When you can buy a house for the price of a new sedan, the entire retirement math changes. Youngstown was built on steel. When the mills closed in the late 20th century, the city lost more than half its population. What remains is infrastructure built for 170,000 people serving 60,000. For retirees, that means hospitals, libraries, public services, and housing stock priced for a population that no longer exists. Cities like Youngstown represent America's forgotten middle, places with full infrastructure, established services, and rock-bottom costs because they're still recovering from deindustrialization. As housing affordability becomes a national crisis, these cities offer a solution most people overlook: a historic brick home in a city neighborhood, walkable to coffee shops and healthcare, with a mortgage payment under $400 monthly. Youngstown isn't picturesque. It's a city still finding its identity after economic trauma. But for retirees who prioritize dollars over aesthetics, it's one of the last urban areas in America where Social Security alone can cover ownership. The trade-off is obvious. You're living in a place still marked by loss, but loss creates opportunity. And for retirees, that opportunity is affordability. Would you retire in a recovering industrial city if it meant owning outright on a fixed income? Because Youngstown forces you to decide what matters more, what a place looks like or what it costs. Number 1, Detroit, Michigan, the most misunderstood city in America, where $78,000 buys you a house in an actual city with museums, transit, and world-class hospitals. Detroit is a city of 630,000 people with a complicated past and a surprising present. Urban amenities, cultural institutions, accessible healthcare, and housing prices that sound fake. Typical home value is $78,973. You get public transportation, proximity to suburbs, downtown revitalization, museums, theaters, sports, music venues, multiple major hospital systems including Henry Ford Health and Detroit Medical Center. You can live in an actual city, not a rural town, for Social Security income. When people hear Detroit, they think bankruptcy. But retirees living there think, I want $200 mortgage, walkable neighborhood, world-class art museum. Detroit declared bankruptcy in 2013, the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. But bankruptcy didn't destroy the city. It reset the price, infrastructure remained, hospitals stayed, cultural institutions survived. What changed was cost. For the first time in generations, Detroit became affordable again, not because it collapsed, but because prices finally reflected reality instead of speculation. Detroit is the test case for whether legacy cities can rebuild through affordability rather than gentrification. If retirees on fixed incomes can stabilize neighborhoods, pay property taxes, and use local services without displacing existing residents, it creates a model other cities might follow. And for retirees, it proves you don't have to choose between urban life and financial security. Would you retire in Detroit if it meant living in a real city without draining your savings? Because Detroit offers something no other major American city does: a chance to retire urban without going broke. Whether places are practically giving away homes or just making it possible to rent for $600 a month, they're all responding to the same pressure. America's retirement math broke. For decades, the assumption was that Social Security alone wasn't enough. But that wasn't about Social Security. It was about geography. These 12 towns prove that retirement on a fixed income is still possible, but only if you're willing to rethink what retirement looks like and where it happens. They're not beach towns or mountain resorts. They're real places with real infrastructure, responding to real economic pressure by making space for people who've already retired. The pattern is clear. As expensive areas price out everyone except the wealthy, affordable areas are building entire local economies around retirees who just want dignity without debt. This isn't a trend, it's a structural shift, and the retirees who see it first will have options everyone else will wish they'd considered. The question isn't whether these places are perfect. They're not. The question is whether financial security matters more than location status. Only you can answer that. If this helped you see where your retirement dollars still work, subscribe. Every week we break down the economic decisions most people won't think about until they're already priced out. This is World Economics Explained, where we follow the places and policies shaping where people actually end up, not where headlines say they should be. Because understanding the economics behind these decisions matters more than any list of cheap towns. And if you're still watching at 20 minutes, you already know that. Subscribe.